Stephen Brooks of 24/7 Sports is back to talk about the football season. Were there any positives in the last few weeks of the season? And then, yes, we get into all the storylines heading into this very important offseason. Let's go.
Our Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It's just the greatest people of all time. Yes, the viewers, the listeners of Locked On Spartans. Also, Stephen Brooks of 24/7 Sports. But before I let this gentleman talk, hey, today's episode is brought to you by Sling TV. That's right. Hey, catch the Spartans vs. Fighting Irish on the basketball court Wednesday night on Sling TV. It's Sling, the TV you love for a price you will also love. Try it today. Stephen Brooks of 24/7 Sports. He is back from Happy Valley. He saw the close to the regular season. Steven, how are we doing so far? It's got to be a weird feeling to already be done covering this team, well, on the field at least, in November. But are we doing okay over there in your neck of the woods?
I can't really complain. It's been an eventful month. It's been a pretty fun month, getting around, covering all these different things. Obviously, basketball has been a big part of that too.
Fun.
Personally fun.
Fun.
Maybe not always the most enjoyable football, the most aesthetically pleasing football and whatnot. But hey, I mean, that was my first time out of Beaver Stadium. That was fun. That was cool to see that. Really cool environment out there. Yeah, no, I'm all right though, man. I was kind of, a little bit of a bummer that looks like I'm not going to be covering a 13th game just because, more football is always the right answer. But sure. I also understand that maybe more football from this team isn't what people are really appetizing. Isn't too appetizing right now. So I get it. I'm doing all right though.
Well, that's good. You know what? Hey, I like the positive attitude you come in here with. You just throw around the word fun as if that's a correct word to use around this team from a fan's perspective. Hey, from a media perspective, I'm sure, it was a very interesting season to cover. But you know what? We're going to have plenty of time to talk about the negatives of this season. We've already covered a lot of them in the last few weeks and really the whole 5-7 season. But humor me here, Steven. Any bright spots you could take away from the end of the season? I have a few written down in front of me. Some you guys have already heard. Avery Dunn is one of them. I like what we saw from Derek Harmon. Brandon Baldwin, I thought did pretty well at left tackle. And also, hey, look, we don't have high expectations for next season anymore. It's not like we're going into next year hoping for an 11-win year. Any positives that you could take away from the last few weeks of the season when there was really a lot of darkness in those weeks, Mr. Brooks?
Yeah. I gotta be transparent here. I was surprised, folks, our listeners here, that Matt was coming to me with it. He brought it up before we started, and I said positives from the Indiana game where they completed 2 passes and 1, and MSU completely melted down, and the Penn State game where they battled and it was admirable, but lost the chance to go to a bowl game, guaranteed and everything. So interesting premise. I'm proud of you though. That is,
you like that?
On your
it's
end.
gross.
So,
yeah.
In terms, I thought Bryce Behringer had a nice day at Penn State. Like, of course, he's out the door.
Yeah.
In terms of like forward-looking stuff, everybody you mentioned, I think I agree with. Thought Baldwin's done well. Those other guys that you mentioned, Avery Dunn for sure has been flashing, through the end of the season here. And now I think he's an interesting guy to watch moving into next year. How about Dylan Tatum though? Actually, he was a guy that I thought played pretty dang well, all things considered. Like not perfect, of course, but for a true freshman who's bounced around every position in that, defensive backfield from corner to nickel to safety, probably both safety spots, I believe. To start as a true freshman on the road in that environment against a veteran QB, I'm not saying Clifford's the best quarterback in the league or anything, or even all conference or anything like that necessarily, but he's a veteran who's been around,
Yep.
and just that environment, that can swallow you up if you're a young guy, you make a mistake. So I thought he played pretty well though. I thought he acquitted himself well. He was physical. The one touchdown that they threw, the tight end, that caught one over him, the dude, Tatum's just given up like 5-6 inches and like 50 plus pounds, probably more like 60-70 pounds, dang near. So but he was right there with him. So I thought all in all, because I didn't know what Dylan Tatum would be. I'm sure you remember his recruitment was such a big deal, and it was a Michigan State race, and one of the best players in the state, at a very visible program and everything. And people, it was a big deal. And I was like, well, what is he though? Is he going to end up at running back? Is he a safety? Is he a nickel? Is he a corner? So just I never really knew what he was. And apparently, MSU's coaches were sort of going through the same thing because he's bounced around everywhere and all that. But yeah, I thought he played pretty well, all things considered for the situation. Now, especially on a day where they needed him to, right? I mean, they didn't have Ronald Williams, didn't have Charles Brantley, and now, he looks like a guy that maybe you could say, okay, maybe he can develop at that spot over the next, year and a half, 2 years or whatever, and become a solid player there for you. Obviously, with the other defensive backs they just brought in, in that freshman class right now, and then the incoming 2023 class will be full of some defensive backs too. Probably 4, 5, 6 guys maybe if they can get there. So it's good to see some of those guys hit, right? Because they've recruited big numbers in the defensive backfield, but it looks like Tatum at least has a solid start to it, and we'll see where he takes it. But I thought he was one of those bright spots.
Well, that was a fun few minutes. That's more time spent on positives than I thought we could do.
What else?
Look at us go.
Trey Mosley's back. He said in the radio show he's coming back, and just reliable, man. The guy is just so steady and sturdy. Like, we need a play here, boys. All right, there's Trey Mosley catching the ball to move the chains. All 4 of his catches went for first downs in that game, and that's just typical Trey Mosley. It's just like he pops up out of nowhere, makes a play. Just, no drama, solid catch. He doesn't bobble it. He doesn't make any flashy moves, just catches it, goes to the ground, moves the chains, lines back up. Like, just very workmanlike. I appreciate his consistency.
One other player I do want to add, actually, I don't want to leave him out, and we've talked about him a lot the last really month. I thought, Jalen Berger really came along at the end of the year. I thought the first few months weren't anything spectacular from this former 4-star recruit, but I thought his November was really as good as you could have hoped for after, his September, his October. So that's just one more name I wanted to throw out there really quick.
Sure.
Moving forward, though, well, that's all I need then is just you agreeing. So
tough day for him in the finale, though. They had some progress there with the offensive line through the Illinois game until until the Penn State game, and that was definitely a step back. Those backs didn't have much room to run, but. Yeah, I don't think the backs are bad players. I think Berger's got a nice, well-rounded skill set. I think he's going to be a good piece for him next year too.
Yeah, it's kind of the same way I looked at the Brandon Baldwin situation too. Like, he had a really strong last month. What was his Penn State game? Great. No, but Penn State just has a really, really good defense. I know that they are a step behind Michigan. They are a step behind, maybe you could say, Ohio State, but still, at the grand scheme of things, they are an upper tier defense in the conference. So am I losing sleep over their performance against the Penn State defense? No, but that's because I've got plenty of other things to lose sleep over. So I don't know. That's just kind of how I grade the whole Penn State game, is that it wasn't great. No.
Good D-line. They lead the league in sacks. So, you saw that. Like, Thorne was under more pressure probably than any game this season. At least, definitely the most in a while that we've seen. Yeah. And then the running lanes, that was just more of the same. There was nothing there. Guys were getting beat across the board. And they just, and in pass protection, everybody, I think, sort of had some breakdowns and some moments there. But again, it's a good D-line. They're athletic. I think Manny Diaz has done some good things as defensive coordinator there to sort of spice up that defense and just, give them a couple new gears and everything. So, yeah, tough assignment, but, tough deal for Michigan State too, because that group had sort of been making some progress. And, you'd really want to feel good about that position going into next year, because we're going to be saying the exact same things going into 2023 until proven otherwise, that, hey, this line's got to get together. They can't be a weakness for this offense, and so on and so forth. They just rinse, repeat from August 2022, 2021, 2020, and quite a few years now.
I know, right? God. Well, yeah, we're going to get into more straight talk here in the next. I don't think anything was disingenuous what we just said. Those were legitimate positives, but it'd be ridiculous to talk about nothing but sunshine and rainbows this season when, well, we're not looking forward to a bowl game. So we're going to get into the nitty-gritty here in a hot second with Mr. Brooks. But first, I need to talk your ear off about BetOnline.net. That's right. If you're like me and you got the World Cup fever, if you're going to be tuned into USA versus Iran tomorrow, win and you're in the knockout stages. Hey, well, I'm also going to sprinkle a few shekels over at betonline.net. They're the cream of the crop. They are number one for a reason when it comes to betting info, stats, news, analysis, and, well, just fun futures, props, lines. They got you covered top to bottom at BetOnline. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to World Cup, and yes, even esports. They've got it all covered at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, well, I got good news for you, Buckaroo. That's right. You could find those at BetOnline as well. We are always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix on. So head to the website today. Use a mobile device. Learn more about the trends in action. That is at BetOnline, where the game starts. And let's start the second segment with Stephen Brooks of 24/7 Sports by talking about the breaking news, the shocking news that Jayden Reed is going to the NFL draft. He's not returning next year. Of course, I say that very facetiously. That was a no-doubter that he was going to probably not come back next year. But with that said, Stephen, who else are we waiting in the bays on right now? Admittedly, hand up, I get so confused with like the COVID year transfers, who has eligibility and what, but like what are other big names that we're waiting on? Like Jacoby Windman, can he come back? Chris Bogle, can he come back? Anyone else that kind of headlines your wait and see radar right now?
Both of those guys you mentioned, as you said, Jayden was absolutely no surprise whatsoever.
Sure.
I mean, that was he might have even, I don't even know, he might have even said it last year when he came back, like this is it, but I don't remember it yet. And I think a lot of people thought that was like he was just done, but Jayden did have another year on the table, and there's a couple people were in my mentions like, wait, isn't this the end period? And I was like, no, he technically could come back, and I know NIL's been good to him, but it's time for him to go do his thing. So wish him luck there. And I think he'll be a good player because he brings a lot of value, brings special teams value. Dude's tough as heck, competitive as heck, worker, very, very hard worker. So I'll be curious to see where he ends up and everything. But Bogle and Windman that you both mentioned, both can come back. Absolutely. And I would expect both to at this point. I don't. Windman would be the one that where you'd go, maybe he could go and test his, take his shot, but I don't think so. Probably, especially the way this all ended, and flop positions and everything. I think he'll come back. I would expect at least at this point.
Gotcha.
Also, other than that, like there's a lot of guys you just don't know about, and I think a lot of that's going to be hammered out this week. December 5th is the big portal day, and that's just going to be. I mean, that's going to be like Black Friday, like in the mid 2000s, like where people were just old ladies were getting trampled and just, it was just an absolute zoo in the malls, in that era.
When America was America. That's right. Yeah.
That's what the transfer portal is going to be on December 5th. So, those decisions and conversations I think are happening this week, but like so many guys could technically still come back. I mean, Nick Samak and JD Duplain could both come back. They're
crazy.
They're true fourth year guys, but they obviously have the COVID year on the table. Jacob Slade and Xavier Henderson are not. At least Xavier is not. I guess Slade technically could, but I'd be stunned if he did.
Okay.
I wouldn't think that's realistic at all. Bryce Behringer's gone for sure, of course, but almost everybody else could come back. So to me, the ones I'm kind of curious about are the offensive linemen. That's Duplain and Samak. What do they do? As well as in the defensive backfield. Ronald Williams, I believe, could even come back for another one. Amir Speed, he's done. Chester Kimbrough, though, I believe, could also come back. So, I know those guys have, maybe haven't changed the program necessarily by coming in or anything, but depth-wise, you still might want some dudes like that have played, significant snaps and know your system and everything. Or, you're just going to have to sort of turn a page, like I said, and go very, very young next year and maybe look for some new portal. Offensive line and those older DBs are the ones that I'm curious about as to whether they'll come back, whether they'll move on, or what their situation might be.
And let me know if this is an awkward conversation topic for the program here, but I brought this up after, Saturday's game, did a post-mortem, essentially. What is going to happen with Payton Thorne? Is it just as simple as that, well, yeah, he's coming back next year? Or do you think that there is a shot that some really uncomfortable conversations are going to be had and that this coaching staff might want to flip the page here and start looking to the future, aka maybe kick off this Katon Hauser era? What is that a fascinating storyline for you, or is that kind of a almost non-issue in your eyes?
Yeah, to me, that's the number one off-season topic, to follow. Okay. Outside of like the personnel comings and goings and the roster and the coaching staff, we'll see what happens on both ends. But that's going to be the immediate, point of interest, I guess. But then once the dust settles there, it's all eyes on the quarterbacks because, Payton Thorne, let's be honest, he didn't he didn't step forward and just, strengthen his grip on that job by any means this year. In fact, he probably loosened that grip. He had the opportunity this year to build on 2021 and to leave no doubt that he's the guy as long as he's here and that he's clearly the best option for this program. And he just didn't do that. So now, yeah, I think any and all questions are fair. I'm sure that they'll welcome competition, and that's going to be it's going to be very interesting. There's a lot of jokes, but I think there was some truth, inside of there at their core that, maybe Payton could go finish at a Western Michigan, but now that today Tim Lester got fired, and I assume his dad won't be retained probably by the next coach. Maybe that's off the table. Maybe there's somewhere else he would go. I don't know what's in his head. He's such a competitor, and he always talks about, playing at this level of football is very important to him and has always been his goal. So to sort of, drop down a level or just go anywhere else, really would almost be hard to see. But it's fascinating, right, man? I mean, Michigan State has to do what Michigan just did a year ago, or at least be willing to, I guess I should say, is probably a better way to put it. I mean, Cade McNamara took him to the Big Ten title, took him to the playoff, and they came right back in the next offseason and said, hey, guys, you're going to have to battle this out. Nothing's guaranteed here. And it was legitimate, obviously, because every coach is going to say, oh, there's competition every day. Payton has to win his job every day he's out there, sure. Yeah. Okay. But, I give credit to Michigan staff. Like they, from all the intents and purposes, like they put on a legitimate competition and truly evaluated what the best move was. And now you see what they're doing. I mean, it looks like they made the right call there and things have worked out. So Michigan State staff has to be willing to do the exact same thing. And I do think it's fascinating. I do right now. I believe that they will. I do think they'll give Katin Houser and Noah Kim, everybody who's there, a fair shot at it, because I do think they realize that that while Thorne is experienced, he's done some good things. He's a great leader for him. I do think they realize there's some limitations and that if there's an opportunity to get better at that position, then they sort of have to take it. So it'll be our first test, because like under Mark Antonio, like we know this wouldn't be happening, right? So it's the first situation that we've seen from this staff to see how they're going to handle something like that, where you've got an entrenched guy, good leader, maybe a little limited, skill set wise and everything, and then the young guy sort of trying to nip at his heels a little bit. And then it's Katin Houser has to go win it too if he's given that opportunity. He's not just going to be handed anything. Right. So that there's part of it's on him as well. But at this point, I do foresee a legitimate competition, and we'll see how that ends up. Could it be so decisive that Payton sees the writing on the wall after spring and decides to move on? Yeah, I would be stunned if he left before spring ball. Absolutely stunned. I would think he's going to stick around and compete and battle it out. And I assume in his mind this is his job. I don't know if he thinks about it in that way, but I'm sure the staff is probably going to, foster a competition there and let the best man win. And maybe it'll play into training camp. Like I said, maybe the room will clear out after spring and it'll be obvious. But it's fascinating to me because I think every man's going to get a shot, but until we truly see it too, you do kind of have some questions about how much of a look they'll give the guy who hasn't started 2 straight years.
It is just like the weirdest conversation because before I start talking about it on the weekend show, like they probably might move on to him. We've seen his ceiling. Then I catch myself. I'm like, what am I talking about? Like he was just the quarterback for this 11-win team last year. He set a record last year with I think it was touchdown passes in a single season or whatever it was. Like what am I talking about? But I don't like. It's not crazy to say that he has probably hit his ceiling, right? I don't know. Like I didn't see a lot of progress.
I think we know what he is at this point, and as I said, I just don't think he's got all the tools necessarily to. He's limited in some aspects of his game, and as I said, he's had every opportunity this year to take the step forward and to grab the wheel of the offense and to be the guy there, and it just hasn't really happened. The accuracy has been in and out. I think he's not. I don't think he always sees the field super well. It's just clear. The entire offense did not adjust to the loss of Kenneth Walker very well. And that goes all the way up to Jay Johnson, calling the plays up there in the box and everything. Like, just nobody, I don't think, stepped forward to really, pick up the slack necessarily there. So, and I'm sure he would, I don't think he'd be happy about it. But I think if he's being honest, he would say, he didn't necessarily, like I said, just put his stamp on that job, and slam the door this year. I think if he's being real with himself, he'd say that he left a crack open, for somebody like a Katin Houser to to challenge him this spring. So it'll be interesting to see Caden with a full year in the program. I know he's been doing some good things behind the scenes, another year in the weight room to get stronger. So it's going to be fascinating. And like I said, you just got to wonder how much of a real shot Hauser's going to get. But at this point, I do think until proven otherwise, I have no evidence to the contrary. So I have to believe that he will get every opportunity to win that job.
Yeah, like you're slinging the F word around. I'm slinging the F word around. The word of this offseason is fascinating, without a doubt. Like and look, let's just go right into the other big storyline for this offseason. Coaches, the assistant coaches, and I'll set the line at 2.5 is the over under for coaches that take departures in this offseason. Over or under 2.5 coaches that leave the staff? Or is that just a horrible line to begin with? Is one answer just obvious at this point, in your opinion?
I think I think that's probably where I would put it too. Look, so right up front, I haven't heard of anything imminent or anything like that. So I'm not reporting anything here. It's strictly just my gut or my speculation on it. I don't believe any of those decisions have been made yet. And we'll see, if any decisions are made. But I would go. You said 2.5. I would go under. I feel like 2 is probably good. And the first guy that comes to mind is probably Ross Ailes, just because of the way the special teams has performed. And underperformed. You'd say
has not performed. Yeah.
Right. And so I don't want to go super long, speculating about guys losing their job, but he's a guy that would probably be the first one that comes to mind for me. Just when you look at the special teams performances, when you look at his position coaching duties, his recruiting track record is, pretty short, here. And I think that could be a situation where they move. And then, somebody else that's, just somebody else. I couldn't really even pin it down for you right now. Somebody else probably on the defensive side, maybe just a wild card exit, whether it's a firing or somebody takes another job. I would say 2 at most probably feels right. And maybe there's one, maybe there's none, to be honest. Again, this is just all my speculation, but no more, 3 seems like probably too much. And I'm not even sure if Scotty Hazelton is one of them. I know that was the topic for 6, 7, 8 weeks,
right.
Because he's got to go. I'm not even sure if he is one of them, because they have turned things around defensively. I can say that it's, that I think Mel Tucker has had a little bit more influence on the defensive things, this last half of the year too. So I don't think it's purely Hazelton that turned that around. I think there's been some, some ideas and whatnot coming in from the big office as well. So there's part of that too. I just don't know how Mel reads that, reads that situation with him. So yeah, it's going to be fascinating, but I think maybe 2 at most is probably what I would guess, if any.
Gotcha. And speaking of assistant coaches too, we'll just end the show on this. During Thanksgiving week, news broke that Mel Tucker had a $100,000 bonus that he was supposed to allot to his assistant coaches. He ended up keeping it. I'm going to shoot you straight. I kind of roll my eyes at the story because I'm like, okay, we got the tunnel incident in Michigan. We're going 5-7. I'm still rattled about what happened against Indiana the week before. Like, I don't have it in me to care about this story. Steven, should I be caring about this? And how common of a practice is this? I guess just like, what's your take on the whole $100,000 bonus that he never gave to his coaches thing? Because I'm just so beaten down by the rest of the season that I can't be brought to care about it. And quite frankly, what assistant coach even deserves part of that bonus?
Technically it was for last year.
Never mind.
You could say maybe they did.
Okay.
And Mel wasn't like, that's mine. It was Alan Haller that has the final call on it. It is, the way the language in the contract is, it's at the discretion of the athletic director. I'm not reading it verbatim here, but it's the discretion of the AD with input from the head coach, something along those lines. So Mel, of course, could give his input, but Alan Haller at the end of the day had the final call. I highly doubt Mel was like, yeah, I want that. Give it all to me. That's just I doubt that's how things went. I don't know how things went, because it is weird, right? Like when the guy just signed the contract, he did like $100,000 his pocket change, at that point. And there's people in that building making, far less than $100,000 a year, of course, and sort of the administrative support staff ranks, but even his assistants, aren't only 2 of them are making, 3 of them, I guess, are making 7 figures. The other guys are just, on food stamps or anything, but It's optics. I don't know. It feels worse because of the way the season's gone, I think, and because Tucker's already an easy target because of his contract.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to paint him as like this bad guy or this greedy guy or whatever. We don't know, and we don't know what exactly. Did he take that money and go buy all these people gifts or something? Did he donate it to charity? I don't know. Maybe he pocketed it. Maybe he had a nice golf weekend. I don't know.
Hey.
That's his business. That's his money. And it's in the contract, right? Like I don't know. The optics, and the framing of it, I think, look bad because of the circumstance of the season. But like I don't know, be mad at his agent and Alan Haller, I guess. Like they put it in the contract, like he signed it. Everybody was cool with the contract, 10, 11 months ago. So that's what he was entitled to, and that's what they decided. So I don't know. I'd be curious to find out, I guess, maybe from Haller, like just what, if he'd even talk about that, just like what he was thinking or what those conversations were like, because there is the ability to spread it out across the staff or whatever they see fit. So it just seemed like one of those things where it's easy to pile on Mel Tucker because he's already an easy target with his contract and he's got a losing season going. And I didn't think it was a major deal though. Like if you want to just criticize his the 9.5, that's the real figure. If you want to get mad at him, don't raise a stink about $100,000 that, like I said, is pocket change at this point.
Yeah, and like it just makes for an easy headline, and a lot of people just read the headline. I mean, even with context too, maybe it still obviously doesn't look great. But like again, okay, our kitchen's on fire, our bathroom's flooding. Someone just threw a brick through the window, but someone wants to come up to me and complain about the garage door opener not working. Like a lot of other things are going on right now, other than like just this $100,000 earmark. I don't quite frankly care, because I'm so broken by anything else going on. So I just had to get a level-headed, rational person's take on this whole thing, because there's a lot to go througugh, Steve. And
it was paid, I believe it was paid over the summer, like June or July. I think it had to be paid over the summer. So
got it.
To report on it, and it's I'm not like criticizing reporting, like it's all fair game, it's all records requests, and it's all public information, public university, all that. But like for that amount of money to follow that and to see where that all went, it feels like somebody sort of had to. It almost feels like somebody sort of wanted that out there, right? And like it had to be
cares a lot,
it probably had to be from Michigan State's side, right, to know that he collected all of it and it wasn't dispersed, through multiple people. So that is way more interesting to me. It's like, how did this get out, and who? That's a really good point. Actually, wanted that out there maybe more than just the actual facts of it. But again, I'm not. I'm not critical. That's good reporting. That's good journalism. Like people deserve to know, and like it's all fair game. But just that aspect of it too. For it to become this bigger deal is interesting.
Bang! Look at that. And Stephen, once again, I can't thank you for all your generosity. Not just this episode, but the entire season. All the 3 ups that this team had and the 49,000 downs that they had. I appreciate you coming on every single week. And I know the listeners do, the viewers of the show on YouTube as well. So thank you for everything this season. You are the best. I hope that we can still chat during the off season here and there, but hey, we're going to give you back a half hour of your week for the time being, if that's okay with you.
Sure. No, yeah, I'm always available. Sorry to the viewers, that's a bad deal for you guys. You're welcome to the listeners, though. Hopefully I provided a few things and some entertainment at least. And we made your drive, your lawn mowing, leaf bagging, house cleaning, whatever, a little more entertaining. Have me on whenever, man. We got signing day. We'll see what happens with the coaching staff and roster transfer portal. We got some hoops happening. That's extremely fascinating to throw the F word out there again. So, man, if you need me, I'll be around.
You got it, man. Well, hey, everyone. Just like Steven said, if there's any news that breaks, whether Steven joins us to talk about it or not, hey, we're going to talk about it on Locked On Spartans regardless. So keep it tuned here. Yes, we still have a fascinating basketball season as well amidst this fascinating offseason. So keep it tuned here to the fascinating Locked On Spartans show. Your team every single day. Love you all. Let's go enjoy the rest of the week. Go Green.